Hey everyone, it's Mr. Thacker again. We're looking at perspective sketching today, focused on the 1 point perspective. Remember that there's 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point. 1 point is certainly easier than the other two, and that's why we're doing that. Plus, it's hard to set up a grid for any of the application on 2 point, 3 point. So anyway, what I want to do is walk through with you guys problem number 10. Before I do, I want to first kind of lay out problem number 1, just to help you understand that this information here is important. So if you notice, it says 1 block for problem number 1, but 2 blocks for problem number 2, and that relates to the depth, how far we're counting back on the z-axis for the depth. And remember, we're only counting depth here. So if you look at this, it's every vertical line that represents a block, okay? Every vertical line, that's important. So I'm going to lay this one out just briefly with you guys so that you guys can see that 1 block layout. So again, I'm drawing my x-axis, my y-axis, and my z, remember, it goes to the vanishing point, as do all my other corners, okay, or vertices. So there it is. And so I'm going to lay out my width, which is 10 for this object. Okay, and my height is 6, and you can confirm that. And then my depth, even though it's 4, we're going to just totally ignore that, and we're just going to follow this information right here and take it back 1 block, which is that point right there. Okay, and all I'm doing for you on this problem is boxing it. So, you know, from there you would box this object up. So create the left edge, the top edge. And this one's very simple. And then what you want to do is take all your corners. So this corner's already going back. That's my Z. Take all your corners back to the vanishing point. Now, when you do that, if you don't see that corner, you don't need to worry about taking it back. But the others, you do if you can see that corner and how it would recede back. Now, I'm not going to draw it all the way back. I'm just going to draw it a little ways back because if it goes all the way back, it just becomes messy and confusing, okay? So it takes a little bit to line it up. There it is. And then all I do is just draw this up along that grid line, and you can see that it meets the grid line at that point. And so that means it's going to be above this horizontal grid line, so I'll make a mark a little bit above and draw a line over like that right there, okay? And there's my box, and I'm ready to continue on to the next step, which is establish my shape, add details for my 3rd step, my 4th step, darken. So leave that to you guys. All right, let's move on to the next problem. So P-10. P-10, again, let's lay out our axes. So X moving to the left here, okay? Y angled upward at 90 degrees, and then Z moving to the vanishing point. Okay, so there's my axes, and again I need to know information about problem number 10. So here's problem number 10, and we've already got the dimensions 10, 6, and 4. The 4 is not going to be relevant, but the others will be. So we'll go 10 and make a mark. I don't think I went 10. There's 10 right there. So 10, make a mark, and then 6 for the height. And then it says 2 blocks right here. So that's how far I'm going back. 2 vertical lines, and that takes me to this point right here. Okay, so let me draw my box. So that's it in 2 dimensions. I need it in 3, so I'm going to take all my corners back to the vanishing point. That one I'm not going to include because I would not see it as a solid object. So let's go ahead and take those back. Not necessarily all the way, but we do need to line them up with the vanishing point. That's important. All right, so now we can take this point up to that line because this is the top right edge. Take it up to the top right edge. All right, and then likewise, we can see that the point is a little bit above this horizontal line, so I want to kind of go about that same location over here so that I can make that line as straight and consistent as possible. Right? So there's the back edge of the top view. All right? So there's the object, or the box. Next, we want to establish the shape, and the shape is a rectangular prism, so we don't need to do anything to our current box, except for to move on to the next step, which is to add details. And the detail is this semicircular feature here. And so we want to create that on the front and then give it depth. And so we need to know where its center point is, which is 5 blocks over, and then its radius is 3 blocks to the right, left, and down. So I'm just going to make a line down here, like I have in the past, to create like making an arc or a circle using that technique. And remember, you just use 45-degree diagonals. Subdivide a 9-degree into once into 2 equal parts. Okay, and so you can take another sheet. Let me get the radius. So I'm using this as a measuring device. Corner of the paper up on the origin, and then stepping off that distance, and then I'll transfer that to this diagonal. Okay, so likewise, transfer that distance this way as well. All right, and you can kind of see where that is. And you can see that semicircular shape, okay? So what I want to do is line up those points. Okay. And line up the next 3 points. And there's my semicircle, okay? Which looks like a semicircle on the front view. There's no difference except for maybe size. So anyway, what I need to do is give it depth. So I need to take this point back and this point back, but that's not going to be enough. It's just going to get me started. So okay, so take that back a little ways. You don't need to take it all the way back to the vanishing point, otherwise it just gets a little confusing or messy. Okay, so how far does it go back? Well, the answer is half the depth. Well, if you look on this line, half the depth is somewhere in here. So if I take that point up to here, okay, you can kind of see where that point is now. So I've moved that point up to here, and then I take that point over, which is kind of difficult to do. Making sure that I'm parallel with my x-axis, you can see the back edge of that feature. And I'll put the points where they kind of intersect, okay? Approximately where it intersects. So those are our 2 new points. The other point that I want to bring back, because if you realize this is a semicircular cutout, so that means it's got to be a semicircle in the back as well. This is the front right here, and there should be a semicircle in the back. So in order to move that back, let's move that center point, line it up with the vanishing point. Okay, so there's a bit to think about here. All right, and so the center point is approximately here. Well, that's changed our radius. So our radius is now smaller because perspective, as things get further away from us, they appear smaller, even though in reality it is not. It just appears that way by the way we see things. So what I want to do is I want to get that new distance, okay? And so I'll just use a measurement. You see I've already got a mark there, so let's ignore that mark. I'll put a little X on it. And what I need to do is I need to transfer it down a vertical line. So I'm going to create a vertical line, try to stay parallel with my Y, and transfer that down that vertical line. Okay, and that's going to get me a point here. All right, I can also draw a 45, and this is where it gets a bit messy. Okay, so you're subdividing that 90-degree angle one time, and I can take that same measurement on that 45. which is there. Okay, and so I can strike that arc by lining up those 3 points. All right, and what will happen is, again, I can do a 45 over here. I did not, but I probably should subdivide that 90 into 4 parts. Okay, and this just helps me to get this accurate. Okay, drawing this really light. Okay, and you can see that semicircle in the back. Now, I'm not going to see all of that semicircle, so I'm going to go ahead. I've completed my addition of details, step number 3, so I'm moving to step number 4, which is to darken the object. So I'll darken my arcs first, and the back one will not, we will not see the entire back one, but I'll go ahead and do the front one first. Okay, and I'll come in and do the one behind it, right? But this one, I can't see all of the arc or semicircle, so I just darken until I can't see it anymore. Okay, and that's what that would look like. Okay, it continues on in reality, but we don't show hidden lines in a pictorial sketch, in other words, a perspective sketch. So we won't show it hidden with hidden lines. All right, and so now I'm darkening up that detail. Right, so there's the detail darkened up, and now I want to go ahead and darken the rest of the shape. These 2 lines that I'm drawing now many times are forgotten when they're not darkened early on in the process of darkening your object, so be careful of that. Be careful to stay on your grid lines. All right, and that is the end result for sketching P-10. Okay, that's what it would look like. Notice that the semicircular detail is getting a little bit smaller as it goes back, and the further it would go back, the smaller it would become. Okay, so good luck with the rest of your sketching, and remember that depth is measured on the z-axis, not anywhere else but the z-axis. So what you want to do is mark that depth, you know, if you're doing like half, and then just transfer it either along the x or along the y and get it to where you need it to go. So here I had to transfer it along the y first, and then I brought it along the x to get the back of this semicircular feature. All right, best wishes on your other problems. Take care.